Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on the video. I guess you want to hear about Rhino Billiards and the cues that they offer. That's going to be coming up, but today I want to do something a little bit different before we go down into join my table down in my basement. Is we're going to talk a little economics. I know what you're saying. Economics, that's not fun. But I think it's relevant in this video because a lot of people are saying, well, how is Rhino Billiards even able to offer cues and carbon fiber shafts at that price range? And the answer is simple: economics. So let's talk about it. At the core of economics is supply and demand. Anyone who's taken an economics course, they'll just roll their eyes when you start talking about supply and demand curves, because you probably did 1,000 while you were doing that course, right? But the core principle is sound, right? When you have supply and you have demand, where those two lines cross, that's your price point, okay? When supply goes up, price goes down. When demand goes up, price goes up. So what's happening in the billiards community, right? There's some people that are paying a pretty penny for their playing cues right now. Their break cues, I can't believe it, how much they're paying for a break cue, okay? There's people that are paying over $20 for a piece of chalk. I've never paid a cent for chalk in my life. That is a consumable that is inherited, if you know what I mean. Here's the thing. Billiards is not the same as what it used to be. Pool, right? Cue manufacturing has come a long way, okay? We're not even talking about carbon fiber anymore. We're just talking about the guy in his garage. Maybe he starts up a business and he's got 2 or 3 people helping him, but you got one guy building his cues and then selling them, okay? Gone are those days. And I'm not saying there's not guys in their garages as a hobby making cues still. Of course there are. But they're not in it for making money. They're in it for the love of the game. Okay? So we've got factories that are pumping out cues now. And yet the prices keep going up and up and up. And I get it. You know, some cues are expensive because they have very intricate inlay work or ring work. Okay. But that's not increasing the playability of the cue. I hope people understand that. So when a company comes along, and there's a few now out of Asia that are making cues at a very competitive rate. And not only that, they're carbon fiber, low deflection shafts at a very competitive rate. People take notice. You see, before that, you'd have to go and buy something from, let's say, Predator or Mez. And boy, oh boy, you're paying a pretty price tag. Pretty price tag. Ooh. So to have an option at the, if you're just buying a shaft, the $200 range, depending on when you look, because they go on sale from time to time, that's a big deal. Some people don't know if they want to commit to playing with a low deflection shaft. Some people want to experiment. The price tag is way more palpable if it's $200 instead of 2 to 3 times more expensive, okay? Sometimes more than 3 times expensive. What I want to show you today is economics at its finest and at its worst. I'm going to show you a product. Oh, I'm going to go to Walmart, okay? Walmart is renowned for having food and other items, okay? I'm going to show you one item that isn't food, and I'm going to show you an item that is food, okay? And then you tell me how economics is being followed. Because I tell you what, I live in Canada and things are crazy here. I mean, I don't want to get this video to be political or anything, but it's insane. I want to show you a product, most importantly, that has followed the rules of economics. The price has gone down because supply has gone up. Technology has gone up. Throughput has gone up. Okay? And when that happens, when there's an abundance and demand has stayed the same, the price has to fall. That's economics. That's how it's supposed to work. I'm going to show you that product right now. $65-inch 4K TV for $600. Look how big this thing is. Look at that one up there. 55-inch television for $438. Look at these TVs. Look how big they are. $688. Oh my God. Do you see what economics does? Televisions have gone down huge. When I moved out of my house, I spent $3,000 on a 36-inch tube television. Tube television. Oh my. Check this out. East Point. This is $20 at Walmart. Ooh, I almost want to buy it. Look at the tip. It's almost non-existent. The ferrule looks like yellow old plastic. Maybe someday I'll buy it. Let's go take a look at some food. Check this, you guys. 30% off. A roast, $35. My God. So there you have it. TVs, $600 for a 65-inch huge television, okay? Why is it that cheap? Well, because they follow the rules of economics. Technology's increased, throughput's increased. That means the supply has gone up, which means the demand being the same, the price goes down, okay? Billiards, just not sure that's happened, okay? These people in these billiard companies now, they have CNC machines doing a lot of the work. Yes, inlay work is still, done by hand, but at the same time, CNC machines are digging those spots in the cue for the inlays to be glued into. I don't want to get off topic here, but the fact of the matter is, cue companies can build cues faster than ever before, and yet prices continue to go up, okay? When a company like Rhino Billiards comes along and offers a product at a certain price point that is extremely competitive, people take notice, okay? That's all I'm saying. I had to get this off my chest. I'm gonna stop right now. It's time to review a couple cues from Rhino Billiards. Let's do this. Welcome back to my table, everybody. So, a few things I have to talk about here. One, YouTube requires me to declare that I have received these two cues for free. We knew this when I did my unboxing video. If you haven't seen that, I'll throw it in the description. I'll throw the link up in the corner there for you to watch it at a later time if that interests you. In that video, we talked about the look, how it feels, putting it together, taking it out of the box, what to expect, all that jazz. We did a few weights. This video is going to be my experience with the two cues. So, am I required by Rhino to say nice things? Nope, absolutely not. At no point did they say you have to say nice things because we gave you these cues for free. I'm giving you my honest opinions here, okay? So that's my declaration. Two is, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, by all means, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification, because that just lets YouTube know that you value what I do here, okay? Now, with that out of the way, I think it's important that we do a quick introduction on Rhino Billiards if you haven't heard of them before. My suspicion is that you have heard of them before because they are being what I would classify as uber aggressive in their advertising. If you're on any type of social media and you have pool related content in your feed, you're seeing Rhino Billiards, okay? So they're pumping some money into their advertising, and it's literally, like I said in the last video, taking over my feed. We're gonna be talking about the two cues that I got today. So the first one is the Eclipse Playing Cue, and the second one is going to be the Komet Breaker. The Eclipse is an easy one. We'll go over a few things with that, and I'll give you my thoughts. The Komet, a little bit more in depth because I found a whole lot more interesting aspects to that cue than the playing cue, because I just think that the playing cue is an easy review personally. So if you head over to their website, you'd probably see right away that there's basically 4 lines. I think that it's 4 lines that they're selling. They've got their Nebula cues, playing cues. They've got their Eclipse playing cues. They've got their Komet Breaker. And what I include as a line is their shaft side of their business. And we're going to talk more about that because I think it's the creme de la creme of what they're doing. But that's basically their 4 lines. Yeah, they have some merchandise that they sell, like t-shirts and stuff, but I'm concentrating on those 4 lines, right? So that's the company that they are. I reached out to them and I said, did you sell wood shafts at any time? And yes, they did, but they stopped. They're specializing in the carbon fiber. And that's what they are, okay? They're out of Vietnam. And as I've talked about in other videos, what's happening in Asia is a huge, what I think is a huge explosion, right? And it represents serious competition for other cue makers and cue manufacturing companies all around the world, right? So that is basically it. Head to their website, peruse, take a look around, and maybe you'll see something that you like or something that interests you. Let's start with the review. Like I said, I'm going to start with the Eclipse Playing Cue because I think that's the easy one, and then I'm going to move to the Komet. So without further ado, my thoughts on the Eclipse Playing Cue. All right, so my initial thoughts on the Eclipse Playing Cue. So overall look, I talked about it in the unboxing video. I thought it looked really sharp, right? Well, obviously this is an overlay cue, right? But you can't tell that these are overlays in any way. And the microfiber leather, what they're using for the grip here, very, very sharp, and it feels very, very nice. And that's the main difference between the Eclipse and the Nebula. The main difference, like accounting for that $50 difference in price, basically, is just this grip here, okay? The Nebula, I don't have it in my hands, but by pictures, it looks a lot like the grip that's on the Komet Breaker, which is, I believe this is 3D printed, they say on their website, right? I don't know if I would like to play with this full time on a playing cue, but I'm pretty picky when it comes to grips on my playing cue, right? Breaker is one thing, right? It's just one shot in the sequence of an entire game. But this feels really good. You can't see the seam or anything like that. But let's attack some of the things that I heard right off the hop after the unboxing video. Elephant in the room, the black filmy soot that's coming off of the carbon fiber shafts. So I did a little research, and on AZ Billiards, I found that 4 years ago, Revo, and actually a few that were coming off of the Mez as well, same issue, the black soot coming off, and it was coming onto the table, it was on people's hands, and you know, people were talking about, you know, just grab some alcoholic wipes, keep wiping it, eventually it goes away. Did I see the same thing with this carbon fiber shaft? No, I didn't. I did not see it. I use a glove when I play, but I just didn't see it on my table. There is some black soot on my table. We're going to be talking about that in the Komet review of this video. But as for the playing cue, I just didn't see it, right? I can't attest to what people were doing. Maybe it's something that Rhino addressed already, right? In their manufacturing process. They are a younger company. So there's speed bumps along the way. Predator had the exact same problem, like I said earlier. So, you know, during the course of a manufacturing process, you learn and you get better. That's called quality assurance. So that's great. So rest easy because I'm just not seeing the black soot that people were talking about anymore. But if you do, buy some alcoholic wipes and just wipe it. It'll go away, okay? I want to talk about the bumper on the cue. It is not extension ready. So what that means is there are bumpers that you can, and the cue that I play with right now, when they first came out, they didn't have extension ready bumpers. They come with extension ready bumpers. Now, Rhino doesn't have an extension ready bumper with their cue, but you can take these out, right? I contacted Rhino and asked them, and they said they are working on providing an extension ready bumper and an extension. So that's something in the near future that they plan on offering to their customers. I took my bumper out of my playing cue and put it in here. My friend Andrew tried the same thing. It does fit, it just doesn't feel natural. It felt a little bit like I was forcing it. So I don't think it's a universal thing. I don't think these cue companies are on the same page with making universally transferable products when it comes to that, okay? The shafts are a different story. But as for the bumper, expect to see that in the near future. That was a big adjustment for me because I play with my extension on my playing cue full time, right? So obviously this is a lot lighter right now from what I'm used to. Let's talk about the tip. Okay, on my playing cue, I play with a Caden brand fighter tip soft. That is a tip that is made well, it's made in Japan, but it's from a Taiwanese company, Caden brand, and it's probably the best tip I've ever played with. And I played with a few now. It is amazing, okay? But it is a soft tip. The minute I hit with the Eclipse, and the tip that comes with the Eclipse, they call it a crystal. This is a proprietary brand that Rhino Billiards is making. So that's the only brand that comes with this shaft on the Eclipse, okay? So, and that's quite frankly, all of their shafts come, unless it's a breaking shaft, it comes with this crystal tip, okay? The minute I hit it, I'm like, ooh, that's hard, right? Playing with a JFlowers cue, they came with Mori mediums, and I'm sorry, Mori, it's just garbage. It's a garbage tip now. It used to be amazing. It was one of the first layered tips I ever played with, and it was amazing. Somewhere along the line, they became garbage. And this crystal tip, is it garbage? No. And like I said, I thought it was really hard, but that's only because I was playing with a soft tip on my playing cue. In the meantime, I also played with my friend's cue, who he has a hard tip, a hard playing tip on its cue. And that's where I zoned in my head the hardness of this tip, right? Because that how hard was much harder than the crystal. So this is a medium tip. Do you have to rip it off? Well, as you can see, I haven't ripped it off. It's not going to hinder you. This tip is not going to hinder you from the start, running out racks if that's the level that you play at, or playing a competent game and learning with this cue. The tip is fine. However, I will preface that by saying that a tip is a consumable. It will not last, and you should plan on eventually changing it out because you will be required to. So they do not last forever. So if you got the Eclipse and you just went right away and ripped it off, that's your prerogative. I support you in your journey. If you don't, you'll be fine. Okay, it's fine. It's an all right tip. But like tips and playing cues, they're highly personal items. So I'm sure Rhino Billiards isn't going to care if you take off their precious crystal tip. Now, there are cue companies that offer a wide variety. When you order the cue, you can go there, you can click their drop-down box, and you'll see, oh, all these tips that they'll happily put on for you. Rhino Billiards does not do that, okay? Is that a strike against Rhino Billiards? No, No, it is not. I don't like the fact that cue companies offer to put on any tip that you want, okay? You don't know what happens in the shipping process. Maybe it gets cold, right? Like these things are bubble wrapped, all right? But you know, I'm just throwing this out there, like the environmental concerns. Like we shouldn't keep our cues in our cars when it gets cold overnight, right? That decreases, I'm a believer of that, decreases the life of a tip, prematurely hardens it, for example. But the number one reason why I don't like that is because I like to support my local cue guy, right? In my city, we've got about 5, 6, 7 guys, right? They don't do this, they don't retip cues, and they don't do cue work because they're making money hand over fist. They do it because they love the game, that they're social creatures, and they're trying to build the pool community, right? So I happily give $30, $40, $50 for work to my cue, depending on what's getting done, right? To my cue guy, it gives me a chance to get out and talk and be social and, you know, get a better tip on my cue when it's donezo, right? So, Rhino, my suggestion to you is don't change, right? Keep shipping the crystal tip. It's good enough, you know, for a person who's just starting out on their journey and learning the game, it's fine, okay? Remember, nothing will ever replace good fundamentals. Nothing will ever replace a strong mental game, okay? Nothing will replace good knowledge on how to play this game, okay? If you order this cue and you're a beginner, it's not gonna make you into a pro. No cue will. Remember, you could walk into a bar, play in a bar tournament, and there could be a guy with a fancy cue there, and you can go grab a cue off the wall, and as long as it's half straight and a decent tip, you can beat that person, okay? So the cue does not make the player, right? But overall, the tip, good enough. Next thing to talk about is the length of the shaft. Remember in the unboxing video, I said these shafts are basically an inch longer than a regular playing shaft, the generally accepted length of a playing shaft, right? Have I noticed a difference? I haven't. I mean, we're talking about this much. There are people out there that will say that, oh yeah, I completely noticed the difference. Honestly, guys, I haven't noticed the difference. So whatever, it's giving me a little bit of extra reach. Like I said before, I'm used to playing with my extension already on. So yeah, there is that. It's an inch longer. I haven't seen the difference, okay? Let's talk about playability, okay? It plays great, okay? For $310 now, I think it's on sale. It plays great, okay? The tip's good enough. It's a solid hit. It feels good. It's smooth. Yes, it's an overlay cue, but you're paying $310 for this cue right now, okay? If you want to learn how to play with a carbon fiber shaft, this is a great option for you to get into that market, right? And remember, we're all on a journey. You might say, you know what? I would like to try to get an even lower deflection shaft, okay? And then, well, this is all that Rhino offers, right? Much like JFlowers, right? Now they've got tiers of carbon fiber shafts. Predator, you know, they've got their Revo, right? That's their top of the line carbon fiber shaft. Highly expensive, certainly not in this price range, okay? This is why I like this cue, is because it's got, Rhino Billiards has a competitive advantage. And we're going back to the economics thing now, right? At this price range, you can't go wrong. You just can't. So if you want to learn how to hit with a carbon fiber shaft, low deflection, great option. Great option, okay? Nice. I can't say much more about the cue when it comes to the playability. Okay, so the Komet breaking cue. This one here is not as easy of a review as the Eclipse. The Eclipse, if you're in the market, if you're in that price range, as I said before, bam, pull the trigger, right? It's a good playing cue, okay? The Komet breaker is different. Now, where was I coming from? You learned that in my unboxing video, I basically have two breakers. I have an old Malley that I got my friend to install a phenolic ferrule, and there is no tip, it's just straight phenolic. And I made that cue very light. I took the weight bolt out, and that's been a breaker for me. I also have a Falcon TNT, which is heavier, and it was designed back in the day to be a break cue, okay? This obviously is many, many, many years later, right? Break cues have become a serious piece of equipment that serious players like to have in their bag, obviously. The prices of breakers, they blow my mind. Honestly, they really do blow my mind. The money that people pay for a break cue. I just, I don't know if I'll ever understand that. So, I mean, from me talking about economics at the start of this video, I think you guys understand where I'm coming from. I don't see why they're as expensive as what they are. Now, let's talk about this breaker. As before, the bumper, it's not extension ready, okay? Some people like to add extra weight. So some people, what they're doing is they're throwing their extension on their breaker as well to give a little bit of extra oomph, right? I talked about the theory about braking in the unboxing video. Some people believe that club head speed is the important thing. So you want it lighter. Other people want it heavier. They think power. Maybe your weight, your age comes into play here, right? So I'm not going to get into the physics of braking. If you want to watch something like that, I highly recommend Sensei Nate. He's got a lot of panache, and he really does go in depth into the brake and breaking it down structurally. So I'll throw a couple of his videos in the description for you to watch if that's what interests you. But there are a few things about the Komet that we need to talk about right away. Let's start it off with the black soot thing. Yes, I am seeing the black soot come off of this carbon fiber shaft. You're not going to be able to see it, but I will give you a close-up here. Right along, and I'm breaking off the head line here. Basically, almost at the center pockets, I've got black streaks here, right? And that's basically, with me breaking off this line and ending there, I might actually be dragging the carbon fiber shaft there. Well, I probably am, right? So that's the carbon fiber shaft hitting my felt, okay? Now, I have alcoholic wipes. I wiped down the shaft and it eventually went away, right? These black, they don't come out easy, which I really don't care about this felt because I've got some brand new Simonis in the other room. And as soon as I get my Ridgeback rails, I'm gonna be changing everything out. But if I was you with this shaft, I would definitely grab some alcoholic wipes right off the hop and wipe it down, okay? That's important. I'm not saying that they don't come out, because they do. But they don't come out entirely. So I would be very careful, right? The fit up is beautiful. The weight is all right, right? It feels more robust than the playing cue. The grip. I don't know if I would be a fan, like I said earlier, to play with this grip full time. This is a 3D printed grip. It feels kind of plasticky. But I can't find the ends of the plastic. So if I were to pick at the end, if I would take the bumper off and pick, I think I could find it and peel it off. So I don't think there's a seam anywhere. In the unboxing video, I said I couldn't find where it was here. That's because I think, this is a guess now, that the plastic 3 goes all the way up the cue, like so. all the way up and all the way down to the butt here. And they probably heat it and it tightens up against it. So, but this is a breaker. You hit one shot with it and then you put it down and then you run out, okay? So, you know, there are people that like wrapless break cues, and that's what this feels like. It feels wrapless, but then it's nodular. It's a 3D printed and it feels nodular. So it's just a different type of feel, okay? Minor. Now, here's a big one. The very first time I broke with it, I said to myself, oh, that tip's too soft. That is too soft. And yeah, it was too soft, okay? I decided right off the hop that I was going to be taking the Komet break tip that comes with it. I'd be ripping it off, okay? Again, in the earlier review, I gave my spiel about tips. Now, my thoughts to Rhino on this are a little bit different, okay? With the Komet, or with the Eclipse Cue and their crystal tip, it's fine. Keep shipping those. That consumable is going to get ripped off eventually anyway, and it plays fine, okay? It plays fine, right? It doesn't play exceptional, but it doesn't play bad. This is not hard enough. The Komet tip that comes with the Komet breaker is not hard enough. We need a harder tip on there. So my one suggestion would be for you guys to change the tip, okay? I know I did. So I sent the cue to my buddy Andrew, and he gave me a bulletproof break tip, and he put it onto my cue. So it only cost me a Caden brand fighter tip in exchange. So, but when I gave it to him, I said, hit some balls with the breaker before you change out the tip. Tell me what you think, right? And then hit some balls after you put the bulletproof on, okay? And he made me a big video giving me his thoughts. Now, keep in mind that he is a JFlowers ambassador and he has extreme brand loyalty. He loves JFlowers. He's the one that got me on to JFlowers. But I do value his thoughts, and he has some interesting comments in this video. Take a watch.
All right, gonna try out a breaker for a friend of mine over at Here After Billiards. He has this new breaker, the Rhino, and he just wanted me to give it a couple hits and see what happens. So I'm gonna break a couple of racks of 8-ball, a couple of racks of 9-ball, and a couple of racks of 10-ball with the factory tip. Then I'm gonna change it to the bulletproof tip, my favorite break tip. And we're gonna try a few smacks with that. So let's get into it. It feels about 19 ounce, something like that. I'm sure he has the specs on it. It's got an interesting grip on it. Feels really weak. Honestly, it feels really weak. I made a ball, but the tip, I see what he's saying, the tip is pretty soft. Like, you could play with this tip. It's not really what I would consider a break tip. I mean, you could get some decent spin on it. So, you know, I don't see the point of this tip being a break tip, to be honest with you. I even got too much spin on that to just trying to play with that 10-ball. Seems like you can get a decent amount of spin. Alright, it dives a little bit, but okay, well, one long shot. Let's see if we can even get out with this thing. But I see what he's saying. The tip is soft, and also the shaft. The shaft doesn't feel like rigid. It feels pretty whippy for a break cue. So it's my opinion on that. Yeah, it's weak. It's like breaking with my playing cue. And it's also leaving some residue on my cue ball. I'll install that tip on there and see if that helps at all. Part of me thinks it'll help a little bit because it's harder, but part of me believes that the problem with the soft hit is the fact that the shaft is very whippy for a break cue. Like, feels like a playing shaft. Feels more like a playing cue. Like, are you supposed to be able to draw back with a break cue like that? I mean, tough to get a pop on it. 10 ball. 10 ball break. All right, so I'm back. I put the bulletproof on the Rhino cue. You can see that. Pretty sexy, it's clear. So, let's give it a few breaks and see. Same thing. 2 breaks of 8 ball, 2 breaks of 9 ball, and 2 breaks of 10 ball. So instantly I feel like it hits a lot better. Control. Still didn't make a wing ball that time. Wasn't really a solid contact. That time we made the wing ball. We have the shot on the 1. Whew. Pretty symmetrical, not too bad. Not bad, got a little more top on it that time. All right, so final thoughts. The best thing you can do to any break cue to improve it before you just go out and sell a break cue to buy a new one is to invest in a better tip. My personal favorite is the bulletproof, but there are several different break tips out there, and it all depends what you prefer. Bulletproof is my choice for sure. And the next thing you want in a break cue, I think, is a little bit of a stiffer taper. This cue has too much of a straight taper, more like a pro taper on it. You want a more conical taper to get a little more oomph. I don't know. It just seems to hit better. And I don't know. Andreas was telling me about maybe these shafts are 30 inches too. I think for a break cue, you probably just want your standard 29. If this is 30 inch, maybe that's contributing to the whippiness of the shaft.
So that was really interesting. I never even thought of actually breaking and running out the table, but Andrew did. And the fact that he was getting juice and he was juicing off of shots and balls, it's a clear indication that the tip is too soft, okay? So he ended up changing it out with this bulletproof, and then he hit some breaks and he was making balls as well, right? Tip hardness is important in a break cue. I don't think anyone is going to argue that. You don't want a soft tip with your breaker, okay? My suggestion to Rhino is that unlike the Eclipse, where I say just go full steam ahead with the crystal, because that eventually will be ripped off. The Komet tip that came with the breaker had to be ripped off immediately because it was insufficient. So my suggestion to Rhino is to actually come with a different tip, something that's more suitable for a breaker. Now, what Andrew said about the Pro Taper, very, very interesting. So let's have a conversation about that. So keep in mind, Andrew is an ambassador to JFlowers, very loyal to that brand. He's the one that got me onto that brand. But I do value what he says, and he is a wealth of knowledge. And he said, most breakers opt to have a more conical taper on their shafts because that gives you more power, or so the theory goes. And Rhino Billiards is offering a Pro Taper shaft here. So like most things in life, you have, pros and cons. The pro to a conical taper is more power. The con to it is less controllability. So if you have fundamentals issues, you're going to have issues with controlling your power. On this cue, as the definition goes, you might get a little bit less power because it's a Pro Taper, but you get a little bit more forgiveness, right? That's the give and take that we're dealing with here. What's the question that you have to ask yourself? And that question is, where am I? I'll tell you where I am, okay? Only you can answer the question, where am I? I very recently decided that I'm actually going to try to hone in on my break, okay? So, for example, my 7-foot second ball side break, it's money, right? I've got a 7-foot. I had to sell my 9-foot when I built my basement, so I played a lot on the 7-foot, the bar boxes, okay? It's money, it's good. My 10-ball break, no, not so good. My 9-ball break, not so good, especially on the 9-foots. So I decided recently that I'm going to hone in on my break. I'm going to actually, for the first time in my life, after decades of playing, really try to dedicate myself to a break that is repeatable, highly repeatable and consistent. Where am I? Do I need all that power? I think I'm pretty powerful. I'm still young enough that I can generate power. Right now, I need a little bit of forgiveness. And that's, by definition, what I will get with a Pro Taper break shaft, okay? If you're a person that has very strong mechanics and you have an excellent break, this may not be the right shaft for you, okay? You might opt for a competitor of Rhino Billiards that has a more conical taper. You might be looking for every ounce of power you can garner, okay? That's where you are, okay? I'm not there. So I'm thinking this is the perfect break cue for me to start that journey, okay? In the end, I may move on from it, but for probably the next 6 months, I'm gonna give it a serious go. Like you've already seen, the tip has already gone, okay? It was insufficient, and Rhino Billiards, I've given you my spiel on the tip. As for the Pro Taper shaft, I did ask what the rationale was behind it, and Saul didn't get back to me in time for me before I shot this video. So if you're curious about that, contact their customer service and inundate them with the question, because I'd be interested to know the answer. I hope that Saul gets back to me eventually, and maybe I'll do an update video on and get that information out there. But me breaking with this cue, what I found once the bulletproof tip was on there, it felt a whole lot better way, way, way better. Okay? Balance, not bad. Feels good. Okay? I'm eager to start working on my break with this Komet breaker. Okay? That's my spiel. Alrighty. So, final thoughts on Rhino Billiards, the Eclipse and the Komet cues. If you're in the market to get into carbon fiber shafts, you don't know if they're right for you, if you're even the type of person that wants to make that shift in your game, or if you're a complete newbie, it really doesn't matter. Why spend over $1,000 on something that you don't know that you're gonna like? That's where I'm coming from. You can always sell a cue, right? You can recoup what you've invested. So this cue right here represents something where you can spend at a reasonable price, and I'm going back to economics here, right? It's a reasonable price. It is low deflection, okay? Try it out. You might like it, okay? I started with a JFlowers Classic cue, right? And that was a jump for me, going from a Hubler to that shaft, that carbon fiber shaft, the Classic, which plays like this shaft from Rhino Billiards. Okay, same amount. You got to think it's the same amount of deflection there. I play with the SMO now, and that's just another step. Okay, right? But more money, double the price, right? So, perfect example of a cue that you can get into and learn, right? And if you want to continue your journey, maybe you move on. I can tell you the SMO, I was having this conversation just the other day. I don't know if I'll ever get used to the swerve. I can't swerve properly with that cue. It's quite frankly making me angry, right? Because how that shaft hits, it's just not swerving like I'm used to. I can't get it to do what I want it to do. To the point where I actually said, you know what? If I have to do a touchy little swerve shot to make it come back, I might go grab a cue off the wall to execute that shot and put my cue down, right? This cue right here, this shaft on this Rhino Billiards, much easier to do a swerve, right? So these shafts, they all play a little bit differently. It's a journey and you need to get used to them. But this represents a perfect opportunity for you to try, okay? I've had nothing but good experiences with Saul and the customer service team at Rhino Billiards. They're very responsive. So it's been a good experience reviewing these cues. Like I said, I'm going to be playing with this Komet breaker for quite some time. Okay, I'm going to be breaking with it because I'm going to be, honing in on my break and trying to get a consistent look and feel. If you were to view me breaking, I want it to pop, I want it to hold, I want to have shape on my opening ball. That's what I want, right? So I'm hoping this tool, this piece of equipment, gets me there, okay? That's everything. Rhino Billiards, thank you very much for sending me these two cues. To all the people that are thinking about, pulling the trigger with this company, I've got nothing but good experiences with them so far, right? Very responsive. And the cues are good, right? I'm enjoying playing with them. So if you're in that market, don't be ashamed. Pull the trigger. That's everything I have. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. It tells YouTube that you enjoy what I do on this channel, and it really pumps that algorithm because that's what YouTube is all about. It's about the algorithm. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for joining me, and thank you, Rhino Billiards, once again for sending me the cues. It's been a pleasure. In the meantime and in between time, I will catch you on the flip side. Toodle.